Get it in. McCollum fires. Hawks take the lead.
Offensively, and Dyson Daniels has been the best defender on Brunson.
The Hawks stole one in game 2. It's down to the wire here in game 3. 7 seconds left. Brunson with the ball. Brunson makes his move. Brunson on the baseline. Hawks got to track it down. Dug it in by Kuminga, and it's over. The Hawks hold on. Atlanta takes a 2-1 lead in the series.
The reality of it is, and I told him this, it's a 7-game series for a reason. You know, stuff's going to happen. There are plenty of teams have been down 1-2. You know, shit, I even think Oklahoma City was down 1-2 last year, and they end up winning it. So I'm not saying we're going to win it or anything like that, but the reality of it is it's 7 games, and you take one game at a time. Each game is its own entity, and that's what I told the group. Now, this should sting because we gave ourselves a chance knowing that we didn't play our best basketball. So it should sting. But we need to feel it and get ready to be locked in for the next game, which we will be.
Whatever. That was Ian Eagle, my dear friend Ian Eagle, on the call. He was great last night. You can't lose with Eagle and Breen. They're both amazing. As the Knickerbockers suffer their second consecutive 1-point loss to the Hawks, and then you heard from Knick coach Mike Brown. And as I said this morning, amidst all the Trump-Iran talk and talking to Blair White, a very courageous conservative transgender in studio not long ago, and Randy Sutton, the amazing cop, the Wounded Blue. As I said earlier this morning, the happiest guy in America right now has to be Tom Thibodeau. I'm sorry. He's got to be grinning ear to ear. That son of a gun had the Knickerbockers 2 games away from the NBA Finals. They got better every year. He won more and more games every year. And whatever the issue was with Leon Rose, I just don't care. So they fire him. They bring in Mike Brown. And now the Knicks, I don't think they'll lose this series, but they're losing now. So the best sports personality, I believe, in the world. I really believe that. Stephen A. Smith has now distinguished himself as that, but he's so much more than that. He does this amazing show every week, and, you know, he discusses a lot of stuff. He had some great points on President Trump and Iran, for example. I agree with a lot of it 2 nights ago. And he toyed with the idea of running for president not that long ago. Just a really smart guy, incredibly entertaining, and he's my friend, Stephen A. Smith. Steve, good Friday morning, buddy. How are you?
Good morning, Sid. How you doing, man? How's everything?
I'm great, and it's great to talk to you. I think you'd agree with me that right now, Tom Thibodeau, I'm not saying he's rooting for the Knicks to lose, but you know how people are. They're going to be honest.
He's looking pretty good right now. He's looking pretty good right now. There's no way around it. He's looking pretty damn good right now. You know, it's really not a good thing for the New York Knicks right now. I'm very, very disgusted with what I saw last night. Them losing the game. Brunson, back-to-back bad plays on offense to end the game. Karl Anthony Towns, I mean, this is the guy that can dominate the Atlanta Hawks, and somehow, some way, he's not as active of a part of an offense as he needs to be. We got a guy in Mikal Bridges who can play, who's worth $150 million that they're paying for him in today's NBA economy, but was never worth 6 first-round picks, 4 unprotected, in order to get his services, particularly when you consider the fact that those assets that you surrendered to get him, who's Jalen Brunson's boy, they won national championships at Villanova. That's why they went through all of that to get him. You know, it compromises their ability to get somebody like Giannis Antetokounmpo, who would have already been a Knick from last summer, had it not been for the Knicks being bereft of those assets. So it's not a good day. I mean, they could still win this series, but there has been a drop-off. Regardless of what statistics say, regardless of what their records say, this is not the same team that had the grit and the grind and the toughness that they had under Tom Thibodeau. That is just a fact.
Couldn't agree more.
That's it.
Yeah, I couldn't agree.
It is.
Yeah, it is.
It is what it is, and we got to see what they're going to do.
Yeah, you know, and, you know, Hart is still valuable out there, does a good job, McBride, but these guys, even they're not the same. And, you know, forget about the offense for a second. I mean, are you telling me that there's nobody on the Knicks that can stop C.J. McCollum? Really, Steve?
Yeah, it certainly seems that way. CJ's a savvy veteran. He's been around for a long time. He can really shoot the basketball. He can really play. He's poised under pressure, doesn't get nervous. can make big-time shots. We keep forgetting he was the top 2 option for years in Portland with Damian Lillard. And not only that, they got a bunch of young thoroughbreds around him that can play but don't know any better. So they rely on him for poise. They rely on him for leadership. And they rely on him for clutch plays, whether it's scoring or setting somebody else to score. He knows what he's doing. And the New York Knicks are not stout defensively across the board because even though OG can defend, even though Josh Hart can defend, and Mikal Bridges can defend, sometimes you can exploit Karl Anthony Towns on a perimeter, and you can exploit Jalen Brunson everywhere. And so the combination of all of those things, along with the absence of faith that Mike Brown has shown in his depth, definitely plays a role, which is a problem because that's one of the biggest reasons you decided to shift from Thibodeau to Mike Brown. Because of those things, Thibodeau's Achilles heel is his stubbornness, and I think the line of the year last year came from Kenny the Jet Smith, formerly of TNT, now of ESPN with the Inside the NBA team. Kenny Smith had a line that I don't want you to ever forget, Sid. And that line was this about Tom Thibodeau. Tom Thibodeau would have a problem playing 9 guys in a baseball game. That's what he said.
That is great.
And it was the line of the year because it's absolutely true.
Yeah.
That was Tom Thibodeau.
Yeah.
He was stubborn in Chicago. He was stubborn in Minnesota. He swore he had learned the error of his ways, then started winning a little bit and got stubborn in New York. And it's a damn shame that he's not the head coach of this team because if he just knew how to relax just a little bit and just laid off and didn't alienate players the way that he can or an organization strictly because of his stubbornness, because he's so committed to the game of basketball. It's all he cares about. It's all he thinks about. It's all he does. But you got to lighten up. And because he didn't, he alienated the support of his players. And as a result, they wanted somebody different than him. Well, now they got it. And look at what's happening.
One more on the Knicks, and this is one of the things I don't miss, Steve, about doing Sports Talk Radio every day, because I'd be spending 2 hours on the Fan today talking about how tomorrow's a must-win. Knicks can't fall down 3-1. Or can they? Can they come back and win 3 straight? Blah, 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 blah. I don't know if tomorrow's a must-win or not, but as a Knicks fan, I'd rather be 2-2. It is.
No. Hey, you can't go down 3-1. Can't go down 3-1. This New York Knicks team is not built to come back from a 3-1 deficit. I'm not saying that it's impossible, but it's incredibly, incredibly daunting. The New York Knicks are not versatile enough to make you believe that they could figure out a multitude of ways to come away with 3 straight victories after being down 3-1 to a young Atlanta Hawks squad.
All right, good.
They don't win game 4. I don't believe they're advancing to the second round.
Wow, which would be a huge, colossal failure. Give me your impressions quickly, because I don't want to get to the political news. What are your impressions of the local football teams? The Giant fans, I saw a lot of people on Instagram yelling and screaming. They wanted sexy players. They wanted the running back Love out of Notre Dame, or the wide receiver Tyson out of Arizona State, or even that safety out of Ohio State. They didn't get either one, but Harbaugh feels like up the middle with a very good linebacker on and off the ball and a guard to protect Jackson Dart that the Giants did very well. The Jets, they did add some talent, skilled players on offense with the tight end out of Oregon and the wide receiver out of Indiana. What were your impressions of the local teams, Trev?
I thought both teams did well. I just don't give a damn because it's not the season. I'm sick and tired of us winning in the month of April and May and then stinking up the joint from September through December. I could care less.
Yeah.
I'm not sold on them. I mean, again, give them credit where credit is due. They did what they needed to do to win the draft. Props to them, but you need more than that. And unfortunately, both organizations have shown us that they're bereft of making the right. They just struggle to make the right decisions time and time again. I'm not enamored with what I'm seeing, and so we got to wait and see.
Yeah.
But they did make the right picks, especially with the New York Jets. I'm one of those guys who firmly believes do what got you there, meaning that if you're a head coach, what got you the head coaching job? If you're Aaron Glenn, it was because you were a defensive wizard. Okay, fine. Go out there and make sure that the Jets are elite defensively. That's how I am. If that's what got you the job, make sure that once you get the head coaching job, you don't forget what got you the job. So I'm good with that. So if you want to show up your defense and show everybody that you're going to have a big-time defense and you bring in the personnel to do that, especially after losing Quentin Williams and those guys last year and tanking the second half of the season, fine. Just go ahead and do it. But I'll be happy when I see them win games when they count.
All right, fair enough. One more on sports. And I know that you talked about it, and I enjoyed your conversation because you're an entertaining guy, but it's everywhere. And I got to tell you, I don't care. I don't care who Diana Rossini is sleeping with, even if he is the coach of the Patriots, whether he's married or not. Put that crap with our buddy Kevin Frazier on Entertainment Tonight. Why this is turning into a major sports story. Every other story on my Instagram is Rossini and Vrabel. I couldn't care less.
I feel bad. I know Diana Rossini a little bit. We worked together at ESPN for 10 years. She's a good person. She's a damn good reporter. I feel very, very bad for her, but it's undeniable that she put herself in a compromising situation. I'm not here to cast any aspersions on her, to judge her or anything like that. You know, and what I will say to people is this, and I don't get into people's bedroom and stuff like that because what we don't talk about enough in this country is that everybody's marriage is different. You got a lot of people in this country that are married in name only. You know, that marriage is not what you think it is when it comes to their specific relationship. So you don't know what the hell is going on in somebody's relationship. I mean, I've seen it all, Sid, as I'm sure you've had. I've seen people that have been married. They got open relationships, open marriages. They swinging. They doing all types of stuff that, you know, I mean, you just never know. So you don't get caught up in all of that.
Yeah.
Here's what I would tell you where it becomes, this is the one point, I said this on my radio show, on Mad Dog Sports Radio, Sirius XM, every day from 1 to 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I said, listen, here's what we have to understand. Mike Vrabel's got some answering to do to his family, his wife.
Oh, the money shot was coming, literally. He's right. Mike Vrabel, the person he has to answer to first is his wife, and he's actually admitted those have been difficult conversations. Let's get right back to Steve. You're making the point, and you're right, that Vrabel, he's got to start with his wife. Oh, he's not there yet. Okay. I thought he was. There he is. Let's get Steve back on the phone. He was saying Vrabel has to start with his wife, right?
His wife.
Right.
Okay. Actually starts and ends with his wife and his family. He doesn't owe us an explanation for a damn thing. Here's where the problem comes in with Diana Rossini. You are a reporter covering the team and the sport. If you were a reporter covering the NFL, but you were seen with somebody with hockey or somebody on the NBA or whatever, it's none of our business. But the fact of the matter is you cover the NFL, and there's numerous stories that you were reporting on that involved him and the Patriots. So because of that, now the conflict of interest comes into play. Okay, did you report? Were you objective in your reporting? Were you just reporting what was fed to you? How was it fed to you? Is it pillow talk? What was it? You know, did you serve his agenda? Or did you serve the agenda and the objective of the Athletic and your readers? That's the stuff that made it become such a public spectacle that the industry had to touch and couldn't avoid, because that is something that you simply don't do. And that's where the problem lies. Yeah. She's married, he's married, whatever. That's their business. That's their family business. We don't know the specifics. She denied it initially, so did he. And then all of a sudden he has this useless press conference where he's talking but saying absolutely nothing. And as far as I'm concerned, threw her under the bus because he had no business speaking about it at all publicly, but he did anyway. And so that's really, really unfortunate that he did something like that, certainly to cover himself. That didn't work. But in the end, what it comes down to is that when you're in our business, you don't put yourself in those compromising situations, especially when you're the females, because the females are the ones holding you accountable. You have to remember, a lot of times, and I want to say this on your show, and I said this publicly because I think people need to hear this. So many times when stuff like this comes out, particularly about women covering professional sports, A lot of people think it's the men going off. That's not true. It's the women in the industry that are going off about women who put themselves in that position. Because any time something like that happens, women, most of whom would never think to do such a thing, look at themselves as having their credibility questioned. Oh, how did you get to where you were?
Yes.
Did you, what mechanism did you use?
Who'd you sleep with? Right. Who'd you sleep with? Right.
So women are, the women of high integrity throughout the years that have been instituted, the wonderful women like the Christine Brennans of the world, of the USA Today's, the Sarah Jenkins of the Washington Post, just Pam Oliver at Fox. You see
Hannah Storm at your network. She's
Hannah
terrific.
Storm,
yep.
ESPN, and Robin Roberts, and so many others that are institutions that are just phenomenal and great and stuff like that, who would never find themselves in their position. You don't ever, ever, ever want to put yourself in that kind of position as a woman in this business, because when that happens, everybody raises an eyebrow, and women guard against that with everything they have, the credibility of what they do. So when one comes along and finds themselves in that kind of compromising position, these women are highly sensitive to it, as well as they should be. A lot of times they're thinking it's the men that are complaining about stuff like that. No, it's not. It's the women that hold down that standard, and they're right to do so. They're not wrong.
That may be the best point of all. You just made a great argument why it does matter. So now you've completely convinced me. I was like, I just don't care. But you made a great argument based upon the profession. And you're right. Women, unfortunately, are viewed by a lot of guys like, how did she get there? And this doesn't help. Right. But, it reminded me when you talked about, well, did she, change the story? Is integrity comes into play? And it reminded me of these Senate confirmation hearings when they sit down and they go, are you going to lie for Trump? Are you going to tell the truth? Are you going to make sure that story makes Trump look good? Kind of like you're talking about with Rossini and Vrabel. But that's the first thing I thought of was, wow, that's like a Senate confirmation hearing.
Yeah, it is. I mean, to some degree, it has to be when it comes to her, not Vrabel. And then you have people calling up saying it's a double standard. I said, no, sir, it's not a double standard. It's not a double standard at all, because we're not talking about gender. We're talking about the institution. If you are a guy and you are covering the NBA, the WNBA, and then you happen to be, it's revealed that you have some kind of relationship with a female coach in the WNBA that you're covering, the same applies.
Yep.
The same applies.
Yeah, sure. Even even the WNBA came under fire last week, the Dallas Wings, because they've got two girls who were together at the University of Connecticut. They drafted Aziz Fudd.
Well, now, that's totally different, because see, that here's the thing. That was an egregious story that I spoke out against that too. That's involving Paige Beckers and Ozzie Fudd, who were teammates at UConn. Paige Beckers went to the pros before she went to the pros. They confirmed that they have a relationship with one another. So what? They're two players. You understand? One is not an authoritative figure or anything like that. Whatever their relationship is.
Yeah, but you don't want, these are your two best players on the team. If they get into a fight the night before and one of these girls can't perform.
You can't go by that, because listen, I've seen situations. Listen, I've been covering sports for years. I know of a situation where a player got traded because the coach was screwing around with the cheerleader. And then the player ended up messing with her. Right. I mean, I've covered stories like this. You understand what I'm saying? I know what I'm talking about. Yeah. But what I'm saying to you is that's different. Two young consenting adults having a relationship with one another is not a crime. The reason why that story was so bad is because it implied that the Dallas Wings went out and got Ozzie Fudd because of the relationship with Paige Beckers, as opposed to Ozzie Fudd being one of the elite players in college basketball. This young lady is a sensational basketball player who proved it time in and time out on the basketball court that she was worthy of her stature as a top player. So to imply that the only reason that the Dallas Wings brought her on board as the number 1 overall pick is because she's so tight with Tage Beckers is an insult to her credentials and what she has established and she has accomplished. Yeah. That's not fair.
True.
You understand? Because look at just strictly on her game, there's nobody that can look at her and say, well, she wasn't worthy of the number 1 overall.
Oh, she's great. She's great.
Because that's just the complex.
Yeah, she's great. She's great. Yeah, no, she's great. And they'll be a good basketball team this year, the Dallas Wings. I want to move on over. I did catch your monologue of your show a couple nights ago when you talked specifically about President Trump and Iran. And I don't know if you're going, at this point, Steve, I think you've come to find that even though I'm a MAGA guy and I love Trump and I have a hard time criticizing him, that doesn't mean I don't. And I think you've come to realize now that you and I happen to agree a lot more than maybe you would have thought before you and I started this really great relationship and this great friendship. And I agreed with just about everything you said just a couple nights ago on your show. But for the audience that did not hear it, let them know how you feel about this whole conflict in Iran.
Well, listen, I think that, first of all, I think most of us as American citizens agree more than we disagree. I just think that in the binary system that we're living in, where we have two sides that have gone to the extreme, that kind of divide and polarization has been stirred and instigated by politicians on Capitol Hill, which is why they get on my damn nerves, which is why I don't like them. Yeah. You understand? I'm here in Washington, D.C., because I'm going to the White House Correspondents' Dinner tomorrow night.
Nice.
And I'm here to tell you something right now. They asked me a question about it. Folks going to get their feelings hurt because I'm sick and tired of what they're doing to this country. We're not that divided. We're reasonable people as American citizens if we just sit down and talk with one another. Having said that, here's my issue with President Trump, with the Iran situation. When you see folks in MAGA turning against them, I don't blame them. You advertised and marketed yourself as being America first. That is not how you have come across. You have been doing a bit too many things that have deviated from America being the priority.
But I can make the argument, Steve, in this one case with Iran. You're right. He's done some things ago. But I can make the argument that America first. Iran started this 47 years ago. We did nothing about it.
Yeah, I'm not disagreeing with that. I don't have a problem with him attacking Iran. What I'm saying is it's inconsistent with what you said. You said you obliterated them last June.
Not true.
And then suddenly you felt the need to attack them again. Well, why? You were either wrong then or you're wrong now. Which one is it? Because it's not consistent. Okay. And then secondly, where's the plan? How do we exit it? Because you said no new wars, no forever wars. Well, how is this ending? Are we sure it's going to end? It can't be, believe me. No, we're not believing you. Where are the facts? What are you going to show us? People have a right to know that, because as American citizens, what I've implored upon you and a lot of people on the right a lot of times, it ain't just about believing you. Sometimes you're scaring the living hell out of people, meaning him, because of the tactic that he's willing to utilize. I understand it's totally plausible that you might be talking, blustering, and all of this other stuff just to scare the living hell out of people, because that's your negotiation tactic. But we don't know that for sure. We just don't. And so because of that, you want to see a plan of action. You want to see coordination. You want to make sure that he's listening to the right people. You want to make sure that he's doing what's in the best interest of the American citizen. And far more often than not, these days, more so his second term than even his first term, we've gotten the impression that that's not the case. And so that was the thing for me. I'm like, go ahead and attack Iran, because obviously with what they've been doing over the last 47 years or so is unacceptable. They've killed American citizens. They've been a top sponsor for terrorism around the world. They tried to kill him. They certainly have shown a propensity and a willingness to do whatever harm to America that they can. Damn it, get their asses. I got it. But in the same breath, you also got to be consistent. If you say this is what the issue is, don't change it up. And in the meantime, don't ignore affordability issues in this country. Don't avoid safety in the streets. Don't avoid these things that are going on in America that need your attention as well.
Well, the safety in the streets, I mean, look, the guy has sent his people to a bunch of cities, including where you're going to be tomorrow night. That's a much safer city because of Trump.
Well, listen, you can say that, and I'm not even going to disagree with that. But in the same breath, here's what I will caution you about. Because a lot of times so many people are so enthralled with him that they're forgetting the importance of precedents. When you look at the Supreme Court and some of the decisions that they have made and what they're going to make in the future, Sid, take this into consideration. How many times is precedent deferred to when a decision is being made? A lot of times people are so gung-ho about Trump. They're like, yeah, go ahead. Not remembering he's going in 2028. 22nd Amendment ain't getting circumvented. Somebody else is going to be in there. Yep. They don't have his cachet. They don't have his bravado. They don't have his swag. Nope. They don't have his ability to deliver and cultivate this communication and this relationship with his people. They don't have those things going on. So when you allow him to get away with just anything, okay, and you say, hell with the law on the books, hell with all of this nonsense, we need this done now, well, then the next president is going to have an excuse. And what if that's a Democrat that is completely against everything that Sid Rosenberg and some of the people that vibe with you believe in? What are you going to feel like then? You got to be careful about all that. That's what makes our country great, that we have a standard, that we live on a rule of law that makes sure that's applicable to everybody, so nobody gets to use the excuse of circumventing it, whether it's Obama, whether it's W. Bush, whether it was Clinton, whether it's Biden, whether it's somebody in the future. You want to guard the interest of the country, not the interest of the individual you so happen to like that happens to be in office at this particular moment in time. You have to be careful about that.
And this is why you're a major superstar. We started talking about the Knicks and the Hawks. We talked about the NFL draft. We talked about Rossini and Vrabel. And you closed out with the very sensible, very common sense approach to the presidency and how this country can heal. That's why, Stephen A., I love you. That's why you're a superstar. And that's why I know it's going to cost you about $50 million, but you still got to run in 28.
I'm not giving up my money. They're not getting me to do that. I will gladly. Listen, for me personally, Sid, I'll tell you this right now. It ain't even about being in office so much for me. I would give anything to be on that debate stage and stand next to these politicians who swear up and down that they've had the interest of the American people and stand in front of my face and say that. Because I would tell you right now, I think I'd eat them alive.
I do
because
too.
I know they have. I know they haven't done that, nope. And that's my whole point. It's like I don't vibe with everything Sid Rosenberg says. Everything you say ain't wrong. Everything Trump does is not wrong. Everything that comes out of Marco Rubio's mouth is not wrong. The same applies to the Democrat. There's some things you're right about. There's some things you may be wrong about. Sit down, be adults. Talk about it and stop trying to position yourself just to turn the American people against one another. I know that I wouldn't be that person. I know that I'd stand up and say, you know what, that's a damn good point. You know what, them borders, like with all the liberals that I know, you're not going to tell me that we did the wrong thing by closing the borders when you opened them and you let 12 to 15 million people in the country. You can't tell me that. Now, I don't like the optics with ICE and how that was utilized. Minnesota is one example, L.A., Portland, Chicago, places like that. But there is no denying that closing the borders was necessary. It's just about how you do things. You can't sit up there and complain about the borders being closed when you said nothing when Obama deported 3.1 million people. We ain't getting away with that. We're not going to be hypocrites. But in the same breath, how you handle stuff matters because it assuages the concerns of the American people. It brings a calmness to us that we know things are happening with adults in the room. Don't talk to me about Kushner and Witkoff going over as envoys to us, and those are our most qualified individuals to do it. We got to be able to do better than that. Stuff like that is what I'm talking about here. And if you talk to the American people with that kind of sense, I think it goes a long way.
Stephen, you're beautiful. And enjoy the White House Correspondents' Dinner tomorrow night. And good luck to our Knicks in Game 4 tomorrow. And let's do this again very, very soon. You really are. You're terrific, Steve. Really, thank you so much. That was great.
Anytime, my man. You take it easy.
You're the best. Stephen A. Smith. He is a great guest and a terrific guy. We become really good friends. That was one you probably didn't see coming, did you? I'm not sure if it's more shocking, Randy Levine, the president of the New York Yankees, or Stephen A. Smith, but both of those guys are terrific guys.
Thanks for listening to Sid and Friends in the Morning. You can hear Sid and Friends in the Morning weekday mornings at 6. If you like the podcast, share it with your friends and listen anytime at WABCRadio.com and download the WABC Radio app. Hit that subscribe button on all major podcast platforms. Plus, follow WABC on social on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and X. See you next time for a new episode so you never have to wonder.
What the heck is going on here?